Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a version of history that sounds peaceful, almost suspiciously peaceful. Colonial America. You know, the place people imagine as fresh bread, simple living, maybe a cozy little wooden house with a charming fireplace and absolutely zero emails. A simpler time, they say, which is true, in the same way that getting chased by a goose is simpler than filing your taxes. So before we begin, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this kind of slow, slightly ridiculous journey through history. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always comforting to know someone else out there is also awake for no good reason. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft, steady hum. Get comfortable and gently prepare yourself for a life with no central heating and a deeply personal relationship with mud. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what simple living actually meant when your nearest grocery store was a forest? Would you enjoy waking up before sunrise every single day? Not because you're motivated, but because the cow is loudly demanding attention. Could you survive a week without coffee, electricity, or the concept of weekends? What does breakfast look like when your kitchen is also your living room, your workshop, and occasionally your emergency medical centre? And perhaps most importantly, how many bugs is too many bugs before you just accept that you now live with them as roommates? And now, congratulations, you've just woken up in colonial America. The year is somewhere in the early 17th century. Your bed is suspiciously made of straw, your house creaks like it has opinions, and there is already work waiting for you. Which is rude considering you just opened your eyes. You wake up in complete darkness, not because it's cozy, but because the sun hasn't bothered to show up yet. Your body, however, has already been informed that it is time to work, and there is no snooze button. Only responsibility, and possibly a rooster with anger issues. You lie there for a moment, unsure whether you are awake or simply experiencing a very committed form of discomfort. The air is cold in that quiet, creeping way that feels like it arrived hours ago and decided to stay. There is no alarm clock, no gentle chime, no phone lighting up your face with bad news. Instead, your schedule is set by the natural world, which, unfortunately, has no concept of weekends or personal boundaries. Somewhere nearby, a rooster screams into existence, not sings, not gently welcomes the dawn. No, this bird announces the morning like it's personally offended that time continues to pass. You consider ignoring it, but then you remember, ignoring the rooster does not stop the day. It only delays your inevitable involvement in it. You shift slightly, and your entire bed reacts like a creaky old ship. The wooden frame complains. The straw inside your mattress rearranges itself with the enthusiasm of dry leaves. Something pokes your back. You briefly consider whether that is just the straw, or something with legs and a long-term lease agreement. Outside, the world is still quiet. No engines, no distant traffic, just the faint whisper of wind against wood, and the occasional animal reminding you that they too are awake and probably expecting something from you. You begin to understand that waking up here isn't a gentle transition. It's more like being drafted into the day. Eventually you sit up, slowly, carefully, because if you move too quickly, the cold air finds you immediately, like it's been waiting behind a door for dramatic effect. Your breath fogs slightly. There is no thermostat to adjust, no cozy blanket that magically retains heat forever. There is just you. And the realization that warmth is something you now have to earn. You swing your feet onto the floor and the wood beneath them is cold enough to make you question your life choices. You pause, staring into the darkness, gathering the kind of motivation that in your modern life would come from caffeine, notifications, or mild panic. Here, motivation comes from necessity, because the animals need feeding, the fire needs tending, the water needs fetching, and all of this happens before you've even had the chance to properly wake up. You stand, stretch slightly, and immediately feel the weight of yesterday still sitting in your muscles. There's a quiet understanding here. This isn't just a new day. It's a continuation. The work never really stops. It just pauses long enough for you to lie down and question your existence. And yet, there is something oddly grounding about it. No emails waiting, no deadlines written in bold red text, just simple, unavoidable tasks. Eat, work, survive, repeat. You take a step forward into the dim early morning, and as you do, the rooster screams again, just to make sure you didn't forget. Welcome to your new morning routine. It starts before the sun, ends when your body gives up, and somehow, you're already behind schedule. You slowly become aware that your mattress is less of a mattress, and more of a sack filled with straw, feathers, and vague disappointment. It pokes you in places you didn't know could be poked, and yet somehow this is considered perfectly normal. As you fully wake up, you begin to understand that sleep here is not about comfort. It's about endurance. The bed beneath you is doing its best, which is admirable, but also deeply ineffective. Every shift of your body produces a soft crunching sound, like you're lying on a pile of polite twigs. You press your hand into the surface. It gives slightly, but not in a reassuring way. More in a "we tried" kind of way. The straw inside has settled into uneven clusters, creating natural hills and valleys that your body must navigate throughout the night. You didn't choose your sleeping position. The bed chose it for you. And then there's the question of what else is in there. Because straw is not just straw. It is a lifestyle. It invites things. Small things. Things that crawl, hop, or simply exist with quiet determination. You don't see them, which is both comforting and concerning. You adjust your blanket, thin, slightly rough, and not nearly as warm as you'd like. It does its job, but only if your expectations are low and your standards are flexible. You realize quickly that warmth is a shared responsibility between you, the blanket, and sheer optimism. There is no such thing as sleeping in here. Even if you wanted to, your bed would not support that decision. It actively encourages you to get up, if only to escape it. It's less of a resting place and more of a polite suggestion that you should probably be doing something else. You swing your legs off the side again, and for a moment you glance back at the bed. It sits there quietly, slightly lumpy, faintly suspicious. This is where you will return tonight. Not because you want to, but because there are no better options. And yet, for all its flaws, it serves a purpose. It lifts you off the cold ground. It gives you a place to rest. It exists, which in colonial terms is already a luxury. You stand there for a second longer, appreciating the strange simplicity of it all. No memory foam, no adjustable settings, no heated anything, just a bag of straw and a quiet agreement that this is good enough. And in a way, it is. Because after a full day of work, real, exhausting, physical work, you'll come back to this exact spot, collapse onto it without ceremony, and fall asleep faster than you thought possible. Not because the bed is comfortable, but because you are. You take a moment to look around your home, which is made of wood, hope, and drafts that sneak in like uninvited guests. Every wall creaks, every floorboard complains, and you begin to suspect the house might be judging you. It's not a large space. In fact, it's surprisingly small for how many things it needs to be. This single room is your kitchen, your bedroom, your workshop, your storage unit, and occasionally your place of deep philosophical reflection when something breaks and you have no idea how to fix it. The walls are rough, uneven, and slightly crooked in a way that suggests someone built this quickly and then decided it was good enough, which, to be fair, it is. It keeps most of the weather out, which is already a strong performance. Most of the time! Because the drafts are relentless. They slip through cracks, under doors, and between boards with the confidence of someone who lives here too. You feel them brush past you, subtle but persistent, like a reminder that insulation has not yet been invented. The floor beneath your feet is solid, but not exactly smooth. It has character, splinters if you will. You learn quickly where to step and where not to, developing a kind of quiet partnership with the space. There's a fireplace, which is less of a decorative feature and more of the beating heart of the house. It provides warmth, light, and a place to cook. It also requires constant attention, like a moody roommate who refuses to be ignored. Everything smells faintly of smoke. Your clothes, your hair, the walls. It's all gently infused with the scent of burning wood. At first it's noticeable. Eventually it just becomes part of who you are. Furniture is minimal. A table, a few stools, maybe a chest for storage. Nothing is excessive because everything has to earn its place. There's no room for clutter when your entire life fits inside a handful of objects. You notice the sounds more than anything. The house is alive with them. The soft creak of wood adjusting to the temperature. The occasional thud from outside. The wind pressing gently, or not so gently, against the structure. At night, these sounds become louder, more deliberate. You lie there, listening, trying to decide whether that noise is just the house settling or something else entirely. But during the day, the house feels different. It becomes a place of movement, of activity. You cook, repair, organize, and prepare for whatever comes next. It's not just a shelter, it's a tool. And like any tool, it requires maintenance. There's always something to fix. A loose board, a crack in the wall, a hinge that's decided it no longer believes in its purpose. You don't call anyone. You are the someone. You take a deep breath and look around again. It's not perfect. It's not comfortable in the way you're used to. But it stands. It holds. It protects you from most of the outside world. And in colonial America, that's not just a house. That's a victory. Breakfast arrives, and by arrives, I mean you prepare it yourself using whatever hasn't spoiled, escaped, or been eaten by something else. It's simple, filling, and absolutely not something you'd post online unless you enjoy losing followers. You step toward the hearth, where the faint glow of last night's fire is either still alive or completely gone, depending on how optimistic you were before going to sleep. If it's still warm, congratulations, you've saved yourself time. If not, well, you're about to start your day with patience and mild frustration. Getting the fire going is its own small ritual. You arrange kindling, coax a flame, and gently encourage it like it's a shy guest at a party. Eventually it catches, and the room begins to warm ever so slightly, which feels like a reward for your efforts. Now comes the question, what exactly are you eating? The answer is usually something grain-based. Porridge, bread, maybe leftovers if you're lucky. It's practical, dependable, and about as exciting as reading instructions on a wooden spoon. You stir your food slowly, watching as it thickens into something that can technically be described as breakfast. It's warm, which is nice. It fills you up, which is necessary. Beyond that, expectations should remain low. There are no flavours competing for your attention, no sweet syrups or elaborate spices, just simple ingredients doing their best. You take a bite. It's Fine. And that's the goal. Because breakfast here isn't about enjoyment, it's about preparation, fuel for the day ahead. You eat not because you want to, but because you need to. You sit quietly as you eat, listening to the crackle of the fire and the faint sounds of the world waking up outside. There's a calmness to it. No rushing, no multitasking, just you and your very honest meal. And somehow, that simplicity feels almost peaceful. Almost. Because as soon as you finish, the real work begins. You reach instinctively for coffee, and then remember that coffee's either rare, expensive, or simply not part of your life today. What you get instead is something warm, possibly bitter, and emotionally unsatisfying. There is a brief moment, just a second, where your brain insists that coffee must exist somewhere nearby. Surely hidden behind a wooden wall, there is a magical device that will produce a hot, rich, life-affirming drink. Something that smells like motivation and tastes like hope. But no. Instead, you're handed a mug of something that looks convincing. It is warm. It steams slightly. It even has a colour that suggests it might be coffee's distant cousin. You take a careful sip. It is not coffee. It might be made from roasted grains, or herbs, or something that once had ambitions of becoming a beverage. It has a taste that lingers, not aggressively, but persistently, like a polite disappointment. You pause, staring into the cup as if it might change its mind. It does not. You try another sip. This time you attempt to convince yourself that it's good. Not good in the modern sense, but good in a this will keep me alive and vaguely functional kind of way. And to be fair, it does. It's warm. It wakes you up slightly. It gives your hand something to hold while you process your situation. But it does not spark joy. Around you, no one seems concerned. This is normal. This is what people drink. There are no long discussions about flavour notes or brewing methods. No one is asking whether it's single origin or ethically sourced. It exists. Therefore it is consumed. You take another sip, this time with acceptance rather than hope. Because here, comfort is not found in luxury. It's found in consistency. You drink this because it is what is available, because it is warm in a cold morning, because it gives you a small moment to pause before the day begins in full. You begin to understand that coffee in your modern life is more than just a drink. It's a ritual, a reward, a gentle easing into consciousness, and without it, the morning feels abrupt, direct, almost aggressive. There is no soft transition here, no gradual awakening. You're simply awake now. You finish the mug, not because you want to, but because it feels wrong not to. You set it down, take a breath, and prepare yourself for the day ahead without the comforting illusion that caffeine will carry you through it. And somehow, despite everything, you will manage, but you will never forget what you've lost. You drink water that has a personality. It may be cloudy, slightly flavoured, and questionably alive, but it is yours, and hydration is still technically happening. You approach your water source with cautious optimism. Maybe today it will be clear. Maybe today it will look like something you would willingly drink without negotiating with yourself first. It does not. The water sits in its container, wooden, heavy, and slightly suspicious. You lift it, noticing the faint slosh of liquid that has seen things. You pour a small amount into your cup and hold it up to the light. It is not transparent. It is expressive. There are hints of colour, subtle particles drifting lazily, like they've accepted their fate. You tilt the cup slightly, watching the movement, and consider your options. Option 1, drink it. Option 2, also drink it. You take a sip. It's not terrible, but it's not reassuring either. There's a faint taste, earthy, perhaps, a suggestion of wood, maybe a whisper of whatever lived in the barrel before this water moved in. You pause. This is your hydration now. You quickly learn that water here is not just something you turn on. It is something you collect, store, and manage. It comes from wells, streams, rain barrels, each with its own unique personality. Fresh water is precious. Clean water is even more so. Sometimes the water has been sitting for a while, long enough to develop a certain depth, a complexity of flavour that no one asked for. You might boil it if you're cautious, or you might simply accept it as part of the experience. Because again, there are no alternatives. You drink carefully, not too quickly, allowing your mind to adjust to the reality that this is normal. This is what people have always done. And somehow, they survived. Mostly. There's a strange resilience that comes with it. A quiet understanding that your body will adapt, that your expectations will shift, that what once seemed unacceptable will slowly become routine. You take another sip, this time with less hesitation. It's still not great, but it works. And that's the key difference here. Things don't need to be perfect. They just need to function, to sustain you, to keep you moving forward. You finish your drink, set the cup down, and wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. Hydration achieved. Standards adjusted. There is no single job title here. You're a farmer, a builder, a repair technician, a cook, and occasionally someone who stares into the distance wondering how things got this busy. You step outside and the world immediately presents you with a list of tasks, not written down, not organised, but deeply understood. The fence needs fixing, the firewood needs splitting, the animals are waiting, the crops are doing something that requires your attention. There is no clocking in. You're already on the job. In this world, specialisation is a luxury. You don't get to say, "That's not my department." Everything is your department. If something needs doing, you do it. If something breaks, you fix it. Or at least, you attempt to fix it in a way that prevents it from becoming a bigger problem. Your day is a constant rotation of tasks. You start with one thing, feeding animals perhaps. That leads to another, repairing a gate, which reminds you of something else, hauling water, which then connects to another problem, something that needs cleaning, sharpening, or replacing. There is no end to it. And yet there's a rhythm. You move from one task to the next without overthinking it. There's no time to overthink. The work is physical, immediate, and necessary. It keeps your hands busy, your body moving, your mind focused on the present moment. You're not multitasking in the modern sense. You're simply doing what needs to be done, one thing at a time. There's a strange clarity in that. Of course, it's also exhausting. By mid-morning, your muscles are already reminding you that this lifestyle is not optional. Your hands are rough, your back is aware of itself, and you've only just begun. But there's also a quiet satisfaction. You can see the results of your work. The fence stands because you fixed it. The fire burns because you built it. The animals are fed because you took care of them. Nothing is abstract. Everything matters. And occasionally in between tasks you pause, just for a second. You look out across the land, take a breath, and wonder how this became your entire existence. Then something calls your attention again, and you go back to work. You step outside and immediately realize that the land is beautiful, vast, and actively trying to make your life difficult. Every crop you grow feels like a negotiation with the universe. The field stretches out before you, full of potential and problems. It looks peaceful from a distance, calm, serene, like a painting. Up close, it's a different story. The soil needs turning, the plants need tending. The weeds, oh the weeds, have arrived early, enthusiastic and completely uninvited. You kneel down, pressing your hands into the earth. It's cool, slightly damp, and full of life. You can feel it. This is where everything begins. Every meal, every harvest, every small success, and also every failure. Because farming is not a guarantee, it's a gamble. You plant seeds with hope, you water them with effort, and then you wait. While nature decides how this is going to go. Sometimes it works. The crops grow strong, the weather cooperates, and you feel like you've achieved something remarkable. Other times, the rain doesn't come, or it comes too much, or pests arrive with the enthusiasm of a festival crowd, or something simply refuses to grow despite your best efforts. You learn quickly that control is an illusion. You can guide, support, and protect, but you cannot command, and yet you keep trying. Because you have to. You move through the rows, checking each plant, adjusting what you can, pulling weeds, shifting soil, making small corrections that might, just might, make a difference. The work is repetitive, but never pointless. Every action is a step towards survival. You stand up, stretching your back, looking out over the land again. It's not just a field, it's your lifeline, your responsibility, your daily challenge. And despite everything, the uncertainty, the effort, the constant negotiation, you feel a strange connection to it. Because this is real. This is tangible. This is life growing slowly in front of you. And all you can do is take care of it and hope it returns the favor. The animals need feeding, milking, cleaning, and constant supervision. They are not pets. They are co-workers who outrank you. You approach the animals with a sense of purpose and mild caution, because while they depend on you, they also have opinions, strong ones. The cow, for example, is already waiting, not patiently. It looks at you with the quiet authority of someone who knows you are late. You don't remember agreeing to this arrangement, but here you are, accountable to a creature that weighs more than your entire sense of self. You begin with feeding. Simple enough. You carry the food, distribute it carefully, and step back as the animals move in with impressive efficiency. There is no hesitation, no polite waiting, just immediate focused eating. You quickly learn to keep your distance. Then comes milking. You settle into position, trying to appear confident. The cow remains still, which you take as a sign of approval, or at least tolerance. You begin. It's a rhythm, a steady, repetitive motion that requires patience and focus. You're not entirely sure you're doing it right, but the cow seems to accept your efforts, which is the closest thing to validation you'll get. Around you, other animals make their presence known. Chickens wander with chaotic energy. Goats observe you like they're planning something. Everything is moving, reacting, existing in a way that demands your attention. This is not passive work, it's constant. You clean, you feed, you check, you repeat. Every animal has needs, and those needs do not align with your desire to rest. You begin to understand that these animals are not just part of your life, they define it. They set your schedule. They determine your priorities. They remind you, loudly and consistently, that they exist. And yet, there's a strange partnership here. You take care of them. They sustain you. It's simple, direct, unavoidable. You finish your tasks, stepping back, wiping your hands, taking a breath. The animals are calm now, content, for the moment. Because this isn't a one-time job, it's a relationship, and tomorrow you'll do it all again. You decide it's time to wash clothes, which means hauling water, scrubbing fabric like it personally offended you, and then waiting for it to dry while questioning your life choices. Laundry begins long before anything actually gets clean. First, you need water. Not just a little water, an unreasonable amount of water. Enough to soak, scrub, rinse, and then rinse again, because the first rinse was more of a suggestion than a solution. So you grab your bucket, which is heavier than you remember, and head toward your water source. Each trip feels manageable at first. By the third trip, your arms begin to negotiate. By the fifth, your shoulders have filed a formal complaint. And yet, more water is still required. You return to your home with sloshing buckets, trying not to spill half your effort onto the ground. You set everything down, take a breath, and prepare for the real work. There are no washing machines here, no gentle cycles, no delicate settings. There is only you and determination. You fill a large tub, drop your clothes in, and begin scrubbing. Not lightly, not casually. You scrub like you're trying to remove the concept of dirt itself. You twist, rub, and beat the fabric against the surface, convinced that if you stop for even a moment, the dirt will simply return out of spite. Soap exists, but it's not what you're used to. It's rough, simple, and occasionally smells like it's still figuring itself out. You apply it generously, because this is not a time for subtlety. As you work, your hands grow tired. Your back reminds you that bending over a tub for extended periods is not its favourite activity. And yet, the clothes slowly begin to look cleaner. Not perfect, but improved. You move on to rinsing, which somehow requires just as much effort as washing. The water turns cloudy, then clearer, then slightly less concerning. You repeat the process until you feel confident, or at least hopeful, that the clothes are ready. Finally, you wring them out. This is where you discover muscles you didn't know you had. Each twist pulls water from the fabric and strength from your soul. You hang the clothes outside, draping them carefully, hoping the weather will cooperate. And now, you wait. Drying is not guaranteed. The sun may help, the wind may assist, or the sky may decide that everything you've just done needs to be repeated. You step back, looking at your work. It's not glamorous, it's not efficient, but it's done. And for a brief moment, as the clothes sway gently in the breeze, you feel a quiet sense of accomplishment. Until you remember. You'll have to do this again. Let's talk about bathing. Or rather, the occasional carefully planned event of bathing. It involves effort, preparation, and a strong tolerance for water that may or may not still be warm. Bathing here is not something you do casually. It is not a daily ritual. It is an event. A scheduled, deliberate, slightly ambitious event. Because first you need water. A lot of it. And not just any water. Water that is ideally warm, which means you must heat it yourself. Slowly. Patiently. Over a fire that has its own opinions about how quickly things should happen. You fill your tub, or more accurately your large container, and begin the process. Heating water takes time. Time that allows you to reflect on your choices, your priorities, and whether this is truly necessary. Eventually, the water reaches a temperature that feels acceptable, not luxurious, not spa-like, just not cold. You step in, carefully, because the temperature is inconsistent. One moment it's pleasantly warm, the next it's reminding you that perfection is a modern invention. You adjust, shifting slightly, trying to find the balance. There is no endless supply of water here. What you have is what you get. So you wash with intention. Every movement matters. Every splash is a decision. You use soap, simple, effective, and not particularly gentle. It cleans, which is the goal. Beyond that, expectations remain low. As you wash, you become aware of how much effort this takes. Not just physically, but mentally. Bathing is no longer automatic. It requires planning, preparation, and commitment. And because of that, it doesn't happen often. You begin to understand why. Because after a long day of work, real, exhausting, physical work, the idea of gathering water, heating it, and going through this entire process again feels ambitious. So instead, people adapt. They wash their hands, their face, maybe their arms. Small, manageable acts of cleanliness that keep things under control without requiring a full production. A full bath is reserved for when it's truly needed, or when you're feeling particularly optimistic. You finish, stepping out carefully, feeling clean in a way that is both satisfying and slightly exhausting. You dry off with a cloth that does its best, and for a moment, you enjoy the result. You did it. You are clean. And now, you have to clean the tub, deal with the water, and return everything to its place. Because even bathing comes with responsibilities. You get dressed in clothes designed to last, not to impress. They are sturdy, practical, and just uncomfortable enough to keep you humble. You reach for your clothes, which are not arranged in a closet, because closets are more of a concept than a standard feature. Instead, your clothing is stored carefully, folded or hung in a way that prioritizes space over aesthetics. You pick up your shirt first. It's made of wool or linen, depending on the season, and it feels present. It doesn't drape softly. It exists firmly against your skin, reminding you that comfort is not the primary goal here. Durability is. You pull it on, adjusting slightly as the fabric settles into place. It's not uncomfortable exactly. It's just aware of itself. Then come the trousers or skirt, equally practical, equally determined to survive whatever your day brings. These clothes are built for work, for movement, for long hours and repeated use. Fashion is not the priority. Survival is. Layers are important, not for style, but for warmth. You add what you need, depending on the weather, knowing that each layer serves a purpose. Protection from cold, from sun, from the general unpredictability of the environment. Shoes are next. Sturdy, reliable, not particularly forgiving. They protect your feet, which is essential, because you will be on them for most of the day. Walking, working, moving constantly. You lace them up, noticing how they feel. Firm, supportive, and slightly rigid. Again, not uncomfortable, just not designed for leisure. There are no quick outfit changes here, no casual decisions about what to wear. You have what you have, and you wear it until it needs repair, and it will need repair. Clothing here is not disposable. It is maintained, patched, reinforced. Every tear is addressed. Every weakness is strengthened. You become familiar with your clothes in a way that feels almost personal. You know where they've worn thin, where they need attention, where they've held up against the demands of your life. You finish dressing, adjusting the final layer, and take a moment. You are ready, not stylish, not polished, but prepared. And in this world, that's what matters. Your social circle is small, predictable, and unavoidable. These are the same people you work with, live near, and occasionally borrow things from. Forever. You step outside and realize something immediately. There is no anonymity here. You know everyone, and everyone knows you. There are no strangers passing by, no endless stream of new faces. The people around you are the same ones you see every day, the same ones you work with, share resources with, and occasionally rely on when something goes wrong. Your interactions are consistent, familiar, unavoidable. You greet them, exchange a few words, maybe discuss the weather, which is always relevant, always important. Conversations are practical, direct, focused on what matters. There's no small talk for the sake of it. Everything has a purpose. You might borrow tools, share supplies, help with a task. Cooperation is not optional. It's necessary. The community functions because everyone contributes, because everyone depends on each other. There's a quiet understanding. You help when you can. You ask when you need. and you remember who owes you what, gently. Social gatherings exist, but they're simple. A shared meal, a conversation by the fire, stories exchanged in the evening light. Nothing elaborate, nothing excessive. Just people together. And because your world is smaller, your relationships are deeper. You see these people at their best, their worst, and everything in between. There's no distance, no separation. You know them, and they know you, which can be comforting or slightly concerning. Because privacy is limited, news travels quickly, opinions form easily, and your business, whether you like it or not, becomes part of the community's awareness. You learn to navigate this carefully, to speak thoughtfully, to act with consideration, because reputation matters. You finish your interaction, nodding, moving on to your next task. The connection lingers, subtle but present. This is your social life now, small, steady, and impossible to ignore. Evening entertainment includes storytelling, maybe some music, and a surprising amount of time spent watching fire like it's a television. As the day winds down, the work finally begins to release its hold on you. Your muscles ache, your hands are tired, and your mind, after hours of focus, starts to drift. This is your time, not for productivity, but for rest. You gather near the fire, which has become the center of everything. It provides warmth, light, and now, entertainment. You sit, watching the flames move. They shift, flicker, dance in unpredictable patterns. It's mesmerizing in a way that's difficult to explain. There's no plot, no structure, just movement and sound. And yet, you watch. Because this is what you have. Someone might begin to tell a story. Not written, not rehearsed, but remembered. Passed down, shaped by time and repetition. You listen, letting the words settle into the quiet space of the evening. Maybe there's music. A simple instrument played softly. A tune that feels familiar, even if you've never heard it before. It fills the room, blending with the crackle of the fire. There's no rush, no need to check the time. The night unfolds slowly. You talk, occasionally. Laugh, quietly. Share small moments that don't need to be recorded or remembered perfectly. They just exist. And then, when the fire begins to fade, when the room grows quieter, you feel it. The weight of the day, the pull of sleep. You stand, stretch, and prepare to return to your bed. The same bed that will once again challenge your expectations. But for now, as you take one last look at the fading fire, you realize something. This is enough, simple, quiet, and strangely peaceful. If you need to go somewhere, you walk, or ride, or walk again. Distances are measured not in miles, but in how tired your legs are by the end. You step outside with the destination in mind, and immediately realize that getting there is not a small task. It is the task. There are no cars, no buses, no quick shortcuts. Just you, the road, or what politely passes as a road, and time. Lots of time. The path beneath your feet is uneven, sometimes muddy, occasionally helpful. It winds through fields, trees, and stretches of land that seem determined to continue forever. You begin walking, settling into a pace that feels sustainable, because stopping halfway is not an appealing option. At first it's almost pleasant. The air is fresh. The world is quiet. You can hear your footsteps, the wind, maybe a distant animal reminding you that you're not alone. There's a rhythm to it, a steady, predictable movement forward. Then, after a while, it becomes walking. Your legs begin to notice. Your feet, enclosed in sturdy but unenthusiastic shoes, start to send subtle messages. Nothing dramatic, just reminders that this is not a short journey. You keep going. Because you have to. Sometimes, if you're fortunate, you might ride. A horse, perhaps. Which sounds like an upgrade until you realize that riding is not the same as relaxing. It requires balance, attention, and a willingness to trust an animal that has its own ideas about where it would prefer to be. And even then you still walk. You walk to the horse. You walk after the horse. You walk because walking is the foundation of movement here. There are no signs pointing the way, no maps glowing in your hand. You rely on memory, on landmarks, on the quiet knowledge of those who have walked this path before you. And occasionally, you get lost. Not dramatically, just enough to add a little extra distance, a little extra time, a little extra reflection on your decision-making. You adjust, correct your path, and continue. Because stopping is not the solution. Eventually you reach your destination. Not quickly, not effortlessly, but completely. And there's a satisfaction in that. You arrived, not because it was easy, but because you persisted. You take a moment catching your breath, looking back at the distance you've covered. It doesn't look that far. It never does. But your legs know the truth. And tomorrow, you might have to do it all again. Healthcare exists, but it's not what you'd call reassuring. Your best strategy is prevention, optimism, and a quiet agreement with your body to just behave. You move carefully through your day, not because you're naturally cautious, but because you've begun to understand something very important. Getting hurt is inconvenient, not in a minor way, not in a take a day off and recover kind of way. No, here, an injury is an event, a disruption, a situation that requires attention, resources, and a fair amount of hope. You become aware of this the moment something small happens. A cut, perhaps, nothing serious, just a quick slip, a sharp edge, a reminder that tools are not always your friends. You look at it, assessing the damage, and immediately begin the process, cleaning it, carefully, thoroughly. Because infection is not just a word here, it's a possibility. You wrap it, secure it, and continue your work, because stopping is not always an option. You adjust your movements slightly, compensating, working around the discomfort. And then there's illness, a fever, a cough, something that in your modern life would be an inconvenience. Here, it becomes a concern. You rest when you can. You use remedies that are known, trusted, passed down. Herbs, mixtures, treatments that have worked before, or at least haven't made things worse. There are people who understand these things better than you. Healers. Individuals with knowledge, experience, and a collection of methods that range from practical to hopeful. You listen to them. Because you don't have many alternatives. There is no quick fix, no instant solution. Healing takes time. It requires patience, care, and a willingness to let your body do what it can. And so you become careful. You watch where you step. You handle tools with respect. You pay attention to your surroundings in a way that feels more focused, more deliberate. Because prevention is not just advice. It's strategy. You take a breath, flex your hand, check the small cut again. It's fine, manageable, under control. You continue your work a little more aware, a little more cautious. Because here, staying healthy is not guaranteed. It's something you actively maintain. There is no escaping the weather. Heat, cold, rain, wind. You experience it directly, personally, and often all in the same week. You step outside and immediately understand that the weather is not something you observe. It's something you participate in. The air hits you first. Warm, cold, humid, dry. It doesn't matter. It makes itself known. There is no barrier, no controlled environment separating you from it. You are in it, and it is in charge. Some days the sun is relentless. It presses down on you, steady and unwavering, turning simple tasks into slow, deliberate efforts. You feel it on your skin, in your movements, in the way your energy shifts throughout the day. You adjust, you work differently, you pace yourself. Other days the cold arrives, not gently, not politely. It settles in, wrapping around you, finding every small opening in your clothing, every place where warmth might escape. You move faster, not because you want to, but because standing still is not appealing. Then there's the rain. It begins quietly, a few drops, a soft rhythm, and then it builds, steady, persistent, turning the ground beneath your feet into something less stable, less cooperative. You continue working, because the weather does not pause your responsibilities. You adapt, you shift, you respond. And over time you begin to understand it, not in a predictive way, but in a familiar one. You notice the signs, the way the air feels, the way the sky changes, the subtle hints that something is coming. You prepare as best you can, but ultimately you accept that control is limited. You take a moment standing there, feeling the wind move past you, the air shifting, changing, reminding you that you are part of this environment, not separate from it. And as the day continues, you adjust again. Because the weather is not a background detail, it's a constant presence, and you are always in it. When winter arrives, everything slows down except the cold, which speeds up and becomes very committed to its job. You wake up and immediately know something has changed. The air is sharper, the light is different, the world feels quieter, as if it's holding its breath. Winter has arrived. You step outside and the cold greets you without hesitation. It wraps around you, settles into your clothes, makes itself comfortable in a way that feels permanent. You take a breath and it feels colder than expected. Everything moves differently now. Tasks that were simple become slower, more deliberate. Your hands, even covered, feel less responsive. Your movements are careful, measured, focused on maintaining warmth while still getting things done. The ground is harder, the air is still, sounds carry differently, and the work continues. Because winter does not stop your responsibilities, it just makes them more interesting. You gather wood, more than before, always more. The fire is no longer just helpful, it's essential. It becomes the center of your home, your warmth, your comfort. You tend to it constantly, because letting it fade is not an option. Food becomes more important. Storage, preparation, planning. Everything matters. You rely on what you've gathered, what you've preserved, what you've managed to keep. And you realize something. Winter is not just endured, it is prepared for. Every action you took before this season, every bit of work, every decision has led to this moment. And now you live with those results. You move through the day, adjusting, adapting, staying close to warmth when you can, stepping out when you must. And at night, as you return to your home, to your fire, to your bed, you feel it. The quiet, the stillness, the challenge. Winter is here, and it is not in a hurry to leave. Keeping food from spoiling is a daily concern. You salt it, dry it, store it, and hope it doesn't develop ambitions. You look at your food supply with a mixture of pride and concern. Because having food is one thing, keeping it is another. There are no refrigerators here, no convenient ways to slow time and preserve freshness. Everything you have must be managed carefully, intentionally, and with a clear understanding that spoilage is always waiting. You begin with salt. Salt is not just seasoning, it's protection. You apply it generously, covering meat, preserving it in a way that extends its life, changes its texture, and ensures that it remains usable. You hang food to dry, watching as time and air do their work. It's a slow process, one that requires patience and attention. You check it regularly, making sure everything is progressing as it should. Because if it doesn't, you lose it. And losing food is not a small inconvenience, it's a problem. You store what you can, carefully, thoughtfully. Every item has a place, a purpose, a timeline. You rotate supplies, use what needs to be used, protect what needs to last. And still, there is uncertainty. You inspect your food, looking for signs, changes in colour, smell, texture. You learn quickly what is acceptable and what is not. You trust your instincts. Because you have to. You take a piece of preserved food, examine it, consider it, and then decide. It's fine, probably. You prepare it, cook it, eat it, accepting that perfection is not the goal. Sustenance is. And as you finish your meal, you look back at your supplies, at the work that went into them, at the careful balance of effort and outcome. This is not just food. It's survival. Preserved, protected, and always. Just slightly uncertain. If something breaks, you fix it. There is no customer service. Only you, a tool, and a growing sense of determination. You discover very quickly that nothing in your world is permanently done. Everything is either working or about to stop working in a way that feels personal. A handle loosens, a hinge complains. A tool you were using confidently just moments ago decides it no longer believes in its purpose. And when this happens, there is no one to call. No replacement arriving in 2 days. No helpful tutorial waiting for you. There is just you and the problem. You pick up the broken item and study it. Not casually, not with mild curiosity, but with full attention, because your day now depends on understanding what went wrong. You turn it over in your hands, testing it, observing it, gently trying to convince it to cooperate again. It does not. So you begin. You gather your tools, simple, sturdy, familiar. Each one has a purpose, and you've learned, often the hard way, how to use them. There's no excess here, no duplicates, just what you need. You start small, adjusting, tightening, realigning. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes the problem was minor, and your intervention is all it needed. Other times, it becomes a project. You take things apart carefully, laying pieces out in a way that makes sense to you. You study how they fit together, how they move, how they're supposed to function. There is no manual. There is only logic and patience. You try one approach, then another. You make small corrections, testing each one, learning as you go. There's a quiet trial and error process happening, guided by experience, intuition, and a growing sense of determination. Because you need this to work, not eventually. Now. Time passes, your hands grow tired, your focus sharpens, and slowly, something changes. The pieces begin to align. The tool starts to resemble its original purpose again. You make one final adjustment, step back and test it. It works. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but it works. And that is enough. You take a breath, feeling a small, steady sense of accomplishment. You didn't just fix the tool, you maintained your ability to continue, to keep going, to solve the next problem when it inevitably arrives. Because it will. Everything here requires maintenance, attention, care. And over time you become part of that system. Not just using tools, but understanding them. Not just fixing things, but anticipating when they might break. You set the tool down, ready for the next task. Because in this world, if it breaks, you fix it. Or you learn to live without it. Your days are shaped by routine and belief, giving a sense of order to a life that is otherwise full of unpredictable challenges. You begin to notice that despite the constant demands, the unpredictability, the endless list of things that could go wrong, there is structure, a rhythm, something that holds everything together. Your day is not random. It follows patterns, established habits, moments that repeat, not out of convenience, but out of necessity. You wake, you work, you eat, you rest. And woven through all of this is belief. Religion is not separate from daily life here. It is part of it. Present in small actions, quiet moments, shared gatherings. It provides something steady, something consistent in a world that is otherwise full of uncertainty. You pause, occasionally, in the middle of your day, not because you have extra time, but because it feels important. A moment of reflection, a brief acknowledgement of something larger than yourself. It's not elaborate. It doesn't need to be. It's simply there. You notice how it connects people, how it creates shared understanding, shared values, shared expectations. It gives the community a sense of unity, a common thread that runs through everything. And in a life where so much depends on factors beyond your control, the weather, the harvest, your health, this sense of order matters. It grounds you. It reminds you that not everything is chaos. You attend gatherings when you can, moments where people come together, not to work, not to solve problems, but to be present, to listen, to reflect, to exist as part of something larger. There's a quiet comfort in that. Because here, life is demanding, unpredictable, relentless at times. But within that there is routine, and within that routine there is meaning. You return to your work carrying that sense of structure with you. It doesn't make the tasks easier, it doesn't remove the challenges, but it gives them context, a place, a purpose. And as your day continues, moving from one responsibility to the next, you feel it. Subtle, steady, consistent. The rhythm, the routine, the quiet understanding that even in a life this demanding, there is still something that holds it all together. And now, the fire has burned low, the tools are quiet, the animals have settled, the wind moves gently outside, brushing against your small wooden home, like it's reminding you that tomorrow is already on its way. You've made it through a full day in colonial America. You woke before the sun, not by choice, but by necessity. You worked with your hands, your back, your patience. You carried water that had opinions. You ate food that was simple, honest, and slightly suspicious. You fixed things that didn't want to be fixed. You walked farther than your legs appreciated, and somehow you kept going. Not quickly, not easily, but steadily. And that's the thing about life in this time. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't comfortable. It certainly wasn't simple in the way we like to imagine today. It was direct, immediate, demanding. Every single day asked something of you, and you answered, again and again. And yet, people lived like this, for years, for generations. They built homes from raw materials. They grew their own food. They endured winters that felt endless and summers that felt unforgiving. They created communities, routines, and meaning in a world that offered very few shortcuts. There's something quietly remarkable about that. Because even in the discomfort, there was resilience. Even in the uncertainty, there was persistence. Even in the long, exhausting days, there were small moments of peace, a warm fire, a shared meal, the simple relief of sitting down after hours of work. So tonight, as you lie in your own bed, soft, warm, probably not filled with straw, you might take a second to notice the difference. The quiet hum of electricity, the clean water that appears without effort, the warmth that doesn't require constant attention, and maybe, just maybe, you whisper a small, grateful thank you to the people who lived through all of that, who woke up every day without guarantees and still kept going. Because history isn't just about kings and battles and big events. It's about ordinary people doing difficult things over and over again and somehow making it through. So now, let your mind slow down. Let the weight of the day fade. The fire is dim. The world is quiet. And just like them, you've done enough for today. Rest.